Boxing Scene have released an article titled Joshua cites lack of communication in Usyk loss. Nobody told him he was losing. I'm going to quote Joshua for a few lines here, starting with, I swear I thought I was winning. I thought I was looking like Muhammad Ali in there. Throughout the fight, I thought I was winning, but at that stage I kind of knew it was close. I thought at that stage I was well in the fight because it didn't seem like there was any real communication as to where I'm at. Like, you're losing the fight. You're down by 2 rounds. I didn't get that. I'm not blaming anyone by saying that, but I didn't get any impression that I was losing the fight. I thought we are well in it. That's why when they announced the name, I was kind of like, huh? So I was jabbing and jabbing. It was hard to accept afterwards. Now, when I watch it back, I think he won by 3 rounds. That's probably from the 9th round onwards. End quote. Very curious and strange stuff, I want to say, from Anthony Joshua. The article isn't particularly long, so I'm going to leave it linked in the description box in case you want to have a read of it. As I say, it's not long, but there are some insightful quotes I feel from Anthony Joshua. So firstly, I want to address his perception that he was winning. That's going to be the first thing. And then secondly, it's his reliance or potentially over-reliance on his corner, his team. But firstly, Joshua says that he thought he was winning the fight. And I don't think this is too unusual. Hatman often talks about the ego of elite level fighters and how it can skew their perception of what's really happened in reality. And I think it's pretty self-explanatory. If you don't get it, I think it's a little bit naive to assume that fighters, especially fighters of the highest caliber, are going to have the most objective opinion, as many, or not many, but some armchair boxing fans do. Because you can't expect the person who was invested in the fight, the person who was fighting, to have the clearest view and perception of what actually happened. Firstly, they're in the heat of the action for the entire time. Secondly, they're a competitor. If anyone's going to be subjective, it's them. And that ego is a lot of the time what they're subjected to, because they're operating at the highest level of their sport. So their ego can't allow them to focus on the failures. They're only going to focus on their successes. So when Joshua says he feels like he won, many fighters have said that. They've been in close fights and they've said, you know what, I feel like I won. It's not that unusual because they focus on the successes, even if they're really, few and far between. They're going to focus on them. They're not going to focus on the shortcomings of their performance, because if they did, they probably wouldn't get to where they were. They'd probably have a couple of spars, a few fights maybe, and they'd constantly be focusing on their failures, and they wouldn't get anywhere. You need to have quite a considerably big ego to get anywhere in any endeavor in life, especially boxing, where it's not just about getting the win, but it's about preserving yourself as best you can, because you're going in and you could potentially come out of the ring, very much worse for wear, potentially not in this realm of consciousness. But so that I don't find that too strange. However, if you do want to criticize Joshua and what he's saying here about how he thought he's winning, I can understand the potential mechanism behind it, but I'm not convinced, because if you look at Joshua's body language at the end of the fight, he does not look like someone who believed he was winning. Oh, it was a close fight, but I thought I won. You don't get that sense from Anthony Joshua. From what I see of Anthony Joshua's body language at the end of the first Usyk fight, he knew he lost. If you look at him when he goes back to his corner, he slumps down. He's got his arms on the ropes. He's got his head down. Nah, he didn't think he was winning. I can't read his mind, but that body language says otherwise. Even when, the referee has Usyk in one hand, he's got Joshua in the other, and they're in the middle of the ring, and results about to be announced. Joshua doesn't look like he's won, or he thinks he's won. He looks like someone who well and truly knows that he's lost. That's just my impression, but based on his body language. And then if we want to take it a step further, if my theory is correct and Joshua did truly know that he had lost the fight, he has this reliance on his corner to tell him that he's losing. He wants that he wants his corner to be that alarm to say, oh, you're losing this fight, you got to go out and get it. I don't, once again, I can understand that because there have been moments in the past, we've seen the highlight reels where corners or trainers, they start to really grill the fights and say, look, you're losing this fight on points. You can't let this go to the scorecard. You have to go out and stick it on him and take this fight back by the scruff of the neck. And Joshua's claiming that he wasn't getting this from the corner. Well, I'm going to argue that I don't think that's the kind of thing that you can rely on the corner to do too much. And that's why I say that Joshua potentially has an over-reliance on the corner. And I think this is kind of backed up by what he said in the aftermath of the first Usyk fight, when he was talking about how, he's just the fighter. He just exercises the game plan, but it's down to his corner to devise it, and he just takes on the instructions. I think, talk about passing the buck. Anthony Joshua is a great fighter. I feel like people in recent years have kind of maybe gone a bit overboard with their criticism of Joshua, because he's still a great fighter with a great resume and a great great achievements for his experience level, I guess you want to say. This isn't someone who's been boxing for a particularly long time relative to many other former unified heavyweight champions. But I don't know, that it smacks, to me, it just smacks, this kind of over-reliance on the corner, where what does he expect them to tell him every single detail? Okay, you have to go out and do this and then do that and do that. There's no instinct there. It's like everything's instruction based. And so this is what I talk about. Tyson Fury, he's the kind of fighter, he just needs a little nudge. Other than that, he can feel his way through a fight. Whereas Joshua seems like he's trying to get through boxing with a textbook. He wants a formal, rigorous education in boxing, an academic boxing education. It's not like that. Fighting is chaotic. Even if you're the smoothest, most technical boxer, you still need a degree of instinct. Like the genius fighters of the past, and even in like recent years, they had very polished and very neat technique from years of drilling, but they still had like an instinctive edge where they knew, okay, just when to use that technique, just when to get out of the way, just when to turn the shoulder or slip off a little bit or step out. They just had it, and it comes from practice, it comes from time. And that's one thing that I think, in particular, Joshua, that's his biggest hang-up in this current situation. Because I did a study about it, and I've spoken about it before. If you watch the fight, Joshua understands what Usyk is trying to do. And he has a rough idea of what he needs to do to counteract what Usyk's doing. But he just can't do it quick enough. Usyk is so experienced and at the highest level, and has such confidence in his technique, that he's able to just catch on. He's able to catch on to a rhythm after a couple of beats. He's able to be aware of his position relative to his opponents as soon as he gets there. There's not much of a thought process behind it. Whereas Anthony Joshua is like, he's trying to think his way through. He doesn't have the instinct. But because he doesn't necessarily have the most amount of experience, he has this reliance on his corner. That's kind of what I'm getting. And a little bit of a contradiction, because he's saying he's not blaming anyone by saying that, talking about his corner and how they didn't really communicate with him. Well, that's a contradiction, because you are blaming them. You are. Because, I didn't get any impression that I was losing the fight. I think it's Joshua kind of passing the buck, I want to say. And it's not too surprising that he's doing this in the lead up to the second fight, because you have to imagine, if you're Joshua, you're going to be looking for reasons to cite why you didn't perform on the night, or why you were beaten, rather. All in a bid to kind of restore your confidence and think, oh, that wasn't me, that was, that went wrong and that went wrong, but it wasn't me, it wasn't my ability that let me down. He wants to have full confidence and faith in his ability going into this rematch. And so I'm trying to understand the mechanisms behind it. As I say, I don't particularly agree, as an outsider looking in, because, he talks about he thought he won the fight. I don't think he actually did. I think that's kind of in, hindsight, and he's trying to retroactively make out as if he thought he was winning. I don't believe it. And he's saying he's not blaming anyone, but he's talking about the corner not being urgent enough and not communicating with him. So yeah, a bit of confusion. I think it's confusion that kind of represents where AJ is, because it's a very difficult situation for him. He wants to stay as a championship fighter. I think this is like his 12th title fight in a row, 12th or 13th. So he's looking to stay at the top, and, small things, all things. You're going to try and scrounge and gather as much confidence as you can, but I don't know. It kind of seems a little bit insecure to me. I'm not sure. That's just my opinion. Leave it in the comment section below. Do you agree with my assessment? Do you disagree? It's all good. Do you agree with AJ and his assessment, or do you disagree? Leave it in the comment section down below and I'll get back to you. And as always, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.